Welcome, kindreds, it's Jessica. I hope you're doing well. It's early Christmas Eve morning here in Wales and I'm a bit croaky, but I'm wearing my unorthodox Christmas pyjamas and feeling excited. So I'm sharing what I've been up to this month in my journal. We left off last month was with this gorgeous Goddess Revealed scrub, and then I did a month ahead reading, a moonth ahead reading, because these are my monthly reflections from new moon to new moon. I used the Sufi Tarot to do that, and in the Sufi Tarot there is a spread which is like this. They call it the 5-point star spread, so I used that to do my month ahead reading. And then I made these pages. Look at my habit tracker. I've literally filled in one day on my habit tracker, so that's clearly not working for me at the moment. And I made this just like a sort of title page, which was to do with our rune for this month, which was the pendulum, and then a mini diary and field notes. And you can see, like, I filled it in quite well at the beginning of the month, but I sort of petered out a little bit. Well, not so much in the middle, I guess. Around the full moon I wasn't filling it in so much. We were all quite poorly the first week, so we had a kind of quiet at-home week when we weren't expecting it, because we had lots of like activities booked in for it being the beginning of December, end of November, you know, like kind of Christmassy things and stuff. We were supposed to go ice skating and things like that, and we ended up not going. But then we've had some really lovely days as well. Like, we went to Winter Wonderland. We had snow, which in December, snow in Wales is usually kind of like not very thick or anything like that, but we actually had enough snow that we could go out, and the kids went sledging and stuff, and it was really good fun. So that was really nice. And apart from that, it's been kind of wet and rainy. What I noticed though, after the snow was on the ground for such a long time, and then when it finally thawed, the birds have just gone crazy. They're just like, yes, flying around everywhere. It's been really, really nice. I've been putting a little bit of food out for them, but there's still quite a few berries left, although they are dwindling a little bit now. I noticed the rose hips have nearly gone now. We had a lovely solstice Yule dinner on the solstice, where I was kind of taking inspiration from the Mother's Night tradition that someone had shared over in the circle. I had just like kind of a nice dinner, and then at the end of the dinner, I've got this little dish, I'll show you. I'd printed out all the virtues, the 9 noble virtues, and we each took one of these randomly out of the bowl to see which virtue we would be working with over the next year. So I actually got courage, which was really on point for me. It says, courage, I face my fear and defend my family and kindred from all dangers. And I've been actively working on courage through the last 2 years, I would say. So looks like I'm still not quite there with that, so I'm going to be working on that as well. And boundaries and things have been something that's come up for me a lot this month as well, Okay, so I tried these pages, and they don't, like, it kind of worked but not quite. What I wanted to do was to have, I've noticed lately I've been really focused on like balancing input and output. So it's fine for me to take in lots of things, like maybe getting a new deck or a new book, or watching TV show, or watching people do like walkthroughs of stuff, or like things, basically all input, you know, not just like food input, but like sort of seeing input in a wider scale. But I need to make sure that that's balanced with my output, so that I do make things, create things, take those ideas and kind of think about them, and maybe like make notes about them. You know, it doesn't have to be like a finished creation or anything like that, but I need to do something with the stuff that I'm bringing in, otherwise it just kind of clogs me up and I get kind of like creatively constipated kind of thing. Sorry if that's a bit gross. Thoughts were that I would separate this over the 4 phases of the moon cycle. So from new moon to full moon, well, this is the first week, from new moon to first quarter, and then first quarter to full. So this was the input and this was the output, and then the same from the full last quarter to the new, so like that. But what I found was, like, I did make notes on here a little bit, but it didn't quite work as I had expected it to. So I'm going to try a different format for that next month. And this was quite good though. I made a little like to-do list here, which I ticked things off, and that was quite helpful. So here, this was more input really. I was finishing off some stuff that I was doing with my astrology learning, and making a list of the classes that I've taken, the ones that I have sort of started but not kind of fully taken notes on, and things like that. Then this was a spread that I did response to our rune of the month, which was the pendulum. And when I say our rune, I mean it over in the Circle of Kindreds, which is my Facebook group, which is like kind of associated with this channel, but it's not. It's kind of got a life of its own as well, you know, lots of crafty, creative and witchy stuff over in there. I used the pendulum and the information about the pendulum from this book, the Woman Runes book by Molly Reamer, and took those, she puts lots of information about all of the different things, and she often has kind of like prompts like questions, and so I took some of those and kind of made them a little bit, adjusted them a little bit and made them into a spread, and then used that spread. I used the Sufi Tarot again for that spread, and I found it really on point actually. Not calling me out, but definitely indicating that I have got some some work to do around like living my deepest values and truths. Like I have these things which I believe in, and I could do with letting that, and it's mainly to do with things like boundaries and courage, you know, those things that keep coming up again, you know, like not letting people take advantage of me really. And it's not even just that, it's stuff that I've been working through, and like I've been seeing a therapist and things like that. So I know I'm making progress in this area, but there's still stuff that needs to be done, and that it was really good, really helpful. And I've written obviously quite a lot just from, it was quite a few cards though. It looks like 5, but there's actually 2 extras on both of those, so 6, 7, 8 is 9 cards. But yeah, I found that really good. Some interesting cards coming out there, especially in the inner deepest values and truths, and then comparing those with my outer lived values and truths. So I took 3 cards each of those, and the way that the cards linked together was really interesting. Really interesting. And then this is another tarot spread that I've been working on, although I was using a different deck for this one. I've been using the Guardian of the Night. This one is ongoing. This is one that another lovely person posted in the Circle of Kindreds for the Sacred Days of Yule. So we started pulling them on Yule, well, kind of the eve before Yule, so on the 20th. And then every day you take a card with a different prompt. So I'll be taking my next one today now for Christmas Eve. This deck is so gorgeous. This has made its way already into my favorites. I know I showed this in my last moonth wrap up as well, but it's just, I get so much out of having the animals in it as well, because it can take you then in places where you weren't expecting it. Like for example, I had the deer, the star card, which has got the deer. Let me see, I probably won't be able to find that now, of course. Oh no, maybe I just put them on top. Yeah, there we go, because that was my last 2 pulls that I had. So the star card, you know, and the prompt was, the time of birth points to inner blocks and resistance. It's like, the star card, how does that work for inner blocks and resistance? But for me, dear, when I was in my early 20s, I had a shamanic reading, like a shamanic journey with somebody who was practicing, who I knew from a moon group that we were going to. And deer came out as kind of being with me in that time. And she also talked to me about being in a rut already, you know, in my 20s. And the things that I'd kind of, issues from childhood and stuff really, that I had been kind of just pretending everything was fine. That's the stuff that I'm going back and dealing with and addressing now. So yes, of course, it's the star, so it still has those kind of like healing qualities about it. But for me, it's even more meaningful because of this deer. And it's like, yes, the things that I'm healing, the things I'm working on, is this, are those things, those same things that are causing me to be in a rut. Back then when I had that shamanic journey, and deer stepped forward for me then. Even though this is like not about inner blocks and resistance, you think, why has that come out for that? For me, it made a lot of sense because I literally was in a rut, which can't be much more of an inner block or resistance, yeah? This was a good one as well. 6 of Pentacles, which is normally like kind of like a reciprocity, isn't it? Giving and receiving, but because of the way that she has it set off with buffalo, and what's that bird called? It's like the one that like pecks the ticks off. But she explains in the book that sometimes the bird takes flesh as well, and she talks about how sometimes what we think of as symbiotic relationships, you know, where there's give and take in a relationship, but actually one person is giving more, another person's taking more, and so to kind of beware of those parasitic sort of relationships. And that was really, it doesn't pull any punches, I find, this deck, but it's still a joy to work with because it's just so beautiful. So yeah, I'm going to finish using that for this, but obviously it's like a pull a day, so it's going to take me until New Year's Eve. And then I've been making some notes here because we're having an Omen Days event over in the Circle Kindreds as well. This is really scruffy, you know, these are the sort of pages that you don't normally see. Although I'm trying to share them all because it's like, it's real, isn't it? So, you know, why not? The Omen Days are something from like Celtic mythology, where days out of time. They're the days where with the old calendar, there used to be like a chunk of days where the old calendar wouldn't match up with the annual cycle. So you would have to add these extra days, which are kind of like days out of time, the intercalary days, which would fill in basically the gap in that cycle. So the Celts use them for divination. You know, I'm Celtic, I'm from a Celtic heritage, so this really resonated for me, this idea, when it was shared in the circle. And we've decided to have like a whole event there about the omen days, and so I'm going to be doing a workshop about setting up your journal for omen days. I'll share that next time when I do the flip through, because I'll be doing it in my own journal as well. Basically, there's 12 days, and so on the first day you look for omens for January, for the first month of the year. Then on the second day you look for omens for February, that kind of thing, and you know, all the way through the 12 days. I'm really looking forward to this. I haven't quite finished. I've like, what should we include in our spreads? And I haven't made those notes yet, but I've been like listening to lots of podcasts and reading articles and things like that, which has been really, really fun. And then this is my new moon ritual. It was the new moon on yesterday. I did start this though the night before on the 22nd, filling in like what I wanted to look at, like what I thought I would do. So like the things that I said I was going to do back here, because I think that's really important. Otherwise, like, you don't ever really know where you are. And like, I've been thinking about doing a weekly check-in, but I just never seem to manage to get around to that. So it seems like monthly, like 4 weekly, does seem to work. Like, it seems realistic for me. So I think perhaps that's how I'm going to be going forward. So I thought I wanted to work on early nights. I've been terrible with that. We've been having really late nights. Good eats, kind of half and half. That's why I've half crossed it. We've been eating really well sometimes, and then sometimes I've been having donuts and things like that. So like when we went to Winter Wonderland and things. Don't overstretch. That's not physically, that's like myself with saying no to things. And I kind of like, I did say no to some things this month, and obviously we had sickness and stuff as well, so I couldn't go out and about so much. I closed my readings down for the holidays, and I'm actually not going to open them for a little while into next year either, because my card for the first month of the year is the 4 of Swords, which is like rest and not like overburdening yourself. So I'm not going to open my readings back up until later on next year. Get cozy. I definitely did do that. We've done lots of like very hugger time. I've had candles going all the time. We've got loads of blankets, and yeah, really nice. Find a therapist. Okay, so I needed to find a new therapist. I found somebody online, but we haven't actually found a time where we can kind of speak and sort of see if we're a good fit yet. So that's why I've given myself like a half for that. Lean on support, human and non. So that's really hard for me. One of the things that I've been working on is to like unpick that idea that I should be doing everything myself. I can't rely, you know, I can only rely on myself, and I can't expect other people to do anything for me, which is really toxic. And so I've been unraveling that. So I've been trying, it's really hard, trying to like, when people offer to do things for me, to say yes, or like try to ask for help with things as well. With all the cold and really, it's like -12 temperatures, our pipes froze. And I prayed the rosary over the pipes. So like when I'm talking about support, I'm talking about like human support, but also other than human support. And I prayed the rosary over the frozen pipes, and they defrosted. You know, we were using a hairdryer to like warm them back up as well, but nothing had really helped. And then I did the rosary over them, and they worked. So so that was good. Listen to more music. I have made a playlist for this whole moon cycle. I'm going to start making a playlist for the next Capricorn moon cycle as well. And that was really cool. I've listened to a lot more music this year, which is really nice. This moon cycle, this month. Work with the pendulum. Oh, I definitely did. So I could cross that off for sure. And work with the hollowing woman. I can cross those things off for sure, because I did do those. I've done that spread with the pendulum, and I have been doing a lot of deep thinking about the hollowing woman, which was my weaver. Here's the page with that on. The weaver for last month. And oh gosh, such a deep one. And I got another hard one again, which I will show you in a moment. So highlights this month are Yule family dinner, Winter Wonderland, snow day, which turned into a week. It was actually like a week and a half. It was just on the ground for so long. Finishing all my seasonal preparations. Yeah, that makes me feel so much less stressed as well when everything's kind of done. Oh, the River of Light Lantern Parade. Yeah, I didn't mention that, but we have like like almost like a fire festival, I suppose, in the town near where I'm, like in a little village, but there's like the main town that's close by. They have all these like music and drumming and stuff like that, and people parading and holding little lanterns and things. It's really nice. I've been taking naps, which I've been enjoying, planning the omen days, which I've been enjoying, and I actually reached 10,000 subs on my channel, so that was a real surprise and a highlight for this month as well. So thank you for subscribing. It's really, really lovely that people actually are interested in what I'm up to. And then the lowlights this month is everyone was poorly. Ella had COVID. She had a high heart rate with that, which was a bit worrying as well. Tiredness, eye strain, headaches. Everyone's been complaining of those kind of like Aries things, but I think it might be to do with Mars in Gemini, which is why those things are coming out. I've been using my phone too much. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm trying to, that's something I really need to address, because I usually don't use my phone very much at all. I use it for specific purposes. This month, when everyone was poorly and stuff, I'm like, right, I'm looking this up, I'm doing this, and then I'd been on my phone for a couple of hours and I haven't even like noticed, you know. And it's like, I don't want it to be mindless like that. I love that I've got my phone and it's a good tool for me, but I want to choose when I use it and not have it like use me kind of thing, you know. So yeah. Also, Notion regrets. I'm having a little bit of like a wobble with Notion, and I'm not quite sure where I am with that yet, so I'll probably make another video about that in the new year when I've had a little bit more time to kind of consolidate my thoughts around that. Field notes, I've already told you most of this, like the disturbed weather, the squirrels have been on the patio. Oh, we saw a woodpecker. Literally our dining room is like got wood cladding around it, and we've got like a long thin window, and we were in there and the woodpecker was like literally right by the window pecking on like the wood on the sides of the window. That was so cool, because like we see woodpeckers quite often around here, but not as up close as that. It was like almost like a viewing window for it. It was amazing. Oh, the moon, the crescent moon this moonth was so yellow. It was amazing. When it first came up, it was like banana yellow. It was amazing. It was so cool to see that. We've had some very thick fog just like lying down over the valley, which was really cool. I always try to take photographs of that and it never really works properly. And my primroses have started coming up, even though it's been really cold, and so it was really funny seeing them like peeping out through the snow. So yeah, those are my field notes. I used to do like a whole page for field notes, but I really do like having them here. This is the lunation chart for this coming, not this coming because this came for the 23rd. And the decks I use, so I use the Guardian of the Night, I've already showed you that. I used the Sufi Tarot, which I've shown you as well. This is really lovely. And actually these are quite nice together. I've realised like I don't love the Hay House decks, like they just make them so big, which makes it difficult for me with my hands. But I mean, it is nice from seeing the pictures point of view. But what is nice about them is that they're all the same size. So when you do combine them in readings, they look nice because they're the same size, I think. And also I suppose something about the like intensity of the art with the sort of colours and stuff is kind of similar, so they, you know, they look good together in a reading. But what I've been using mostly with this is the Herbal Astrology Oracle, which I hadn't opened last month, but I did open it pretty soon after I made that video actually, and I'm really, really loving it. It's gorgeous. Let me show you that. And it looks amazing with this. I think the animals with the plants together, just again another hay house. They're always a bit snug for the first time until they get more eased up. So I've been following Adriana on her blog, her Anima Mundi blog, for a long time. So when she was bringing out this deck, I was really excited for it. So let me show you. Look, these are the backs, and then you've probably seen it because it's like people are very excited about it. So lots of people have been sharing about it. But look, how nice is that? I think I think they look great together. So yeah, really beautiful. Look, they really it reminds me a little bit, like not image wise, but the way that she writes about the plants reminds me a little bit of Maya Toll's Illustrated Herbiary, because she's coming definitely from a very animist perspective with the deck, and I really appreciate that because that's also my understanding of the world is that too. So it makes a lot of sense to me, and I love that the astrology is like woven in with the plants too. It's really good, and like there's not loads about each plant in but enough, you know, enough for you to, and it's a little bit different from what you'll find in your standard kind of like herbal or something as well. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that deck this month. I find there's some sort of tarot syncs in there as well, so I think it would actually be like mostly with my oracles I tend to use them as more like a 1 or 2 card pull situation, but I think this would actually work for a full reading, because there's definitely, it's not just like all love and light, you know, there's work in that deck. There's work in this deck as well, but like for an oracle I sometimes find them a bit like that, but that is not. I also worked with the illustrated crystallary, so I worked with this a little bit this month. These are the cards. These are like the small version, or the big version as well, but my daughter has them. She loves this deck. Look, you can see the pictures in their glory in the book. So beautiful, and again, very much from an animist perspective, as all of my Atolls books are. I also use Sacred Mothers and Goddesses. I use this one for my and the crystallary, although I've used that a little bit as well extra, but I use this one for my year ahead spread, which I've done in my Ritual Planner. So not in here, but in here. I'm wondering if next year I might need to do, because I've got quite a few books on the go at the moment, maybe when I do my monthly kind of like wrap up situations, I will show all of my planners, not just my like kind of main book, I suppose. So yeah, here look, I've got the 2 Sacred Mothers. I used the herbal astrology and the crystallary here, and I got obsidian, which is about protection, boundaries again, you know, protect. There's obviously stuff I need to protect for next year. This is such a lovely deck, really beautiful. And I thought I was going to use these, the Hedge Witch Field Guide, but I didn't actually use this. I think because once I opened the herbal astrology, I was all planted up with that, and I didn't really reach for this one so much. And I also thought I would use the Green Witch, because I tend to use that at this time of year because I find it kind of festive and seasonal, but I haven't used this one either, so I haven't reached for those at all. And I was thinking, should I just keep them down for, because I keep all my decks on shelves, so I was thinking, should I keep them down for next month? But I haven't. I'm gonna get different decks for next month which I'll show you in a minute. Books and podcasts. Oh yeah, so books. I finished reading this, A Woman's Book of Shadows. So this was a really old book. Let me see the date, 1993. And I wanted to just read it and check that it is still like on point and recommendable basically for you know, people asking for a book recommendation today. And I really think it is. I think considering that's a long time ago now, the early 90s, it is very much on point. Like there's some bits in it that are a little bit dated, but there's some excellent stuff in here as well, and she covers a lot, and it is very much from like a kind of feminist perspective, which I appreciate. So this is what is in here: her story, the triple goddess, witchcraft from the prehistory to the burning times, the rise of the father god. But she also has then kind of practical stuff as well, so like starcraft and the moon, ritual, festivals of the year. She's got quite a few like meditations and stuff in here that you can use, you can read out and listen to yourself and stuff like that as well. Stuff about spellcraft, psychic skills, tarot. Although she says, like one chapter on the tarot is really hard to explain the tarot in a chapter is difficult. And herbal lore, she is a herbalist, she's an astrologer and a herbalist. So I really appreciate her perspective. So I think that is a book that I would recommend still now for beginners. Certainly if you're a beginner with a kind of like feminist, you want to be following like a kind of folk witch, like a woman folk witch path, then that is a nice book for that. Another book that I've used this month is this one. This is really lovely. I haven't read this from cover to cover, as you can probably tell, because it still looks like very pristine. I bought candles from Leslie's business. I had one first in like a subscription box, and it was so lovely. I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's like I'm sure she says in here what it is, hopefully. I'll leave the link in the description if not though. But they're quite expensive, and like, because they're really good quality, like her candles and stuff. But she is like obviously very knowledgeable about combining scents and things like that. So I bought this because I wanted to be able to like make some of my own blends and things in here, which she explains about, like home fragrance kits and things like that, and bits about the essential oils and stuff. So I've got a lot of essential oil books already, and sort of like candle making and things like that already, but I wanted this one, and I haven't used it loads, but I've definitely dipped into it, and I went into it this month to find like a kind of seasonal, like a Yule oil blend, and I used the one that she suggested and it was really lovely. So it was like practical projects as well, like making wreaths and things like that. It's really nice. Dream sachet, you know, so it's like kind of borderline witchy. This is lovely, like a stovetop simmer, and so you like simmer that up and it fills your whole home with this gorgeous like pine and orange and everything. So yeah, really, really lovely. So yeah, those are the 2 books I've been reading this month. I've also been reading one with the kids, but we still haven't finished that, so I'll share that next time. Podcasts, I've mainly been listening to things to do with the Omen days and stuff. I've been listening to the Fairfolk podcast. I've been listening to Rune Soup. The astrology podcast, which, you know, I'm always listening to that. Roots of Law, which is another one I listened to for the Omen Days information as well. Bridget Grove did a good podcast about the word of the year as well. I'll link all these things down below as well. And Celtic Source, who I love, Gwilym, and Maurice Bard, who's like a musician and scholar here in Wales. He's got a YouTube channel as well called Celtic Source, and he's been making this series about Rhiannon. So yeah, I'll share all those things down below in the description. I haven't very watched much TV this month. Like I said, I've been kind of on my phone more, but we have watched some like cheesy Christmas movies and things like that as well. On YouTube, I've been watching quite a few videos by Nicole van der Hoven, who talks about obsidian, which is an option I'm kind of exploring as an alternative. Sorry, my husband's come down, he's making coffee and stuff now, so it's loud. She's talking about obsidian. I'm wondering if that might be a better option for me than Notion, or perhaps like what it looks like is like Notion's good for some things and obsidian is good for other things. So I think I'm gonna have a play. I've already downloaded it and I've already started kind of having a little play. Chadwich tag I've been following as well, which has been nice. I've seen lots of people doing that. And it's just a good tag, you know, good information in there. And I've also been watching quite a few fashion and style essence videos as well. I've been working on my like wonder wardrobe. I love Daria Adrinescu. She's really lovely. She's got such a nice energy about her, and she talks about having a wonder wardrobe rather than like a capsule wardrobe. And like, this is obviously so not on point for any of the stuff I normally talk about on the channel, but I really love her videos, and I love watching those kind of like choosing the color palette and getting your kind of thing. So I've been working on a spring wonder wardrobe. And then this is like the incoming energy for this next moon cycle. So this will take us all the way up until January 21st. So again, I've got the Capricorn moon here. I've got my new weaver, which was Buzzard, Dreamer of the Longest Flight, which is basically about dying and your soul being like severed from your body, and then all the last remaining threads, the silver threads, being severed so that you can fully take flight and go back to the kind of realm of souls. For me, I'm working with movement now, or I'm already working with it as my word of the year. And it really, like the kind of contrast between stillness and movement there really kind of spoke to me about that. And then we had this rune, the Sun and Moon, which is the most joyful rune in the book. And if you're in the circle, I've already talked about this rune at length over this. I'm not going to bang on about that now as well here, but I was so happy to get that as a kind of juxtaposition to this. Pairs of things, it's been really like, seems to be coming out for me over this next moon cycle. Like I said, I got the Four of Swords from Sufi Tarot, which is my January card for the month. So it looks like I'm going to be working with rest and stuff. I've written down all the ingresses and stations and transits and stuff for this. That was all from my honeycomb. Am I going to be able to get this out of the stack? I'll try. So I take this information from the lunation chart from the back of my honeycomb planner, and I look at this as like a kind of birth chart for the moon cycle. And I should have said last time, I didn't, because I was obviously looking at my lunation charts, but lunation charts, like birth charts, will be different if you're born in different places in the world. So if you've got lunation charts and you're like, well, my Capricorn moon wasn't an Aquarius ascendant, mine was like a Sagittarius ascendant for me, is because when we're in different places in the world, these ones are calculated for me here in Wales, so in South Wales, so it's specific to this area. So you'll have a different one if you live somewhere else, obviously. So yeah, don't put too much stock by mine if that is not yours. Obviously the positions of the planets are the same in the signs, because the new moon happens at the same time for us all over the world, but what sign is on the horizon will be different depending on your longitude and latitude. This month is going to be a big one for me astrology wise, because my Venus is my ruling planet, and she goes in the bends this month, which means that she is like the north node and the south node are there, and Venus is like there in the middle, and when they're like kind of in that two squares, it's called in the bends, and it's a kind of very stressed position to be, which is why I think I'm getting this whole Four of Swords, rest. You know, I need to not be doing too much this month. I've got to really like look after that Venus. I'm probably gonna like book a massage as well and look into like my physical health as well this month, just to take care of that. And also quite a lot of Mercury action with Mercury going retrograde, and I'm having my tongue tie snipped. I know I mentioned this last time. I've had a tongue tie my whole life, and I'm actually having that snipped just before the full moon, like literally just before, a couple of hours before, on the 6th of January. And like astrologically wise, that's not a really great time to be having that done. And looking at like Mercury, how things are going on, it's interesting, but I kind of like it. There's a Mercury retrograde and having a Mercury type operation, and with Mars in Gemini in a Mercury sign, Mars is about kind of cutting and slicing things. And so yeah, I wonder how that's gonna, I hope it's all gonna go okay. I hope I don't die, which is like the kind of the full meaning of this card. So if I don't do a video next month, you'll know why. And then taking all of that information, you know, that this is how I like to do my new moon, is that I do the reflection on what's happened last month, and then the like research what is coming up for me this month, you know, and I'm looking at the astrology, I'm looking at the cards, I'm looking at the runes, and then plan, you know, so what are my themes? Rest, fun, freedom, physicality, and pairs of things. Like I said, that seems to be coming up quite a lot, and what is coming. And then how can I live in these themes this month? And so I put things like work less, I've closed my readings, like I said, using decks in pairs, so I'm going to be doing that, focusing on the physical with my word of the year, so I'm going to be leaning into that movement word, but I don't want to be too like vigorous in the movement. I might even be thinking about the opposite of movement, with being like stillness and rest in this first month. Creative play, allow plenty of healing time, so don't set myself too many projects, too many tasks and things for that first month of the year. I'm going to wait until later on in the year to start doing those things. I'm going to take a whole month, the whole of January, to work on my 2023 goals. I'm not going to rush to get it like set in stone in that first month. With Mercury being retrograde, I think this year is looking much more like delay getting those things, and just take a little while to think about it all through before really pushing forward. Like January is not a great time often for like pushing things forward. You want to wait until the spring, you know. It obviously depends on where you are in the world, but if we're going to live seasonally, then like really like going for your goals in January is not really that compatible with the energy of that time. Like definitely seeding, getting the ideas for sure, but not actually the like kind of the playing out of that. Do less, receive more. Care for the physical body. Yeah, so I said get massage, good food, lots of rest, things like that. Easy does it. I'm thinking about what I might do. I might deactivate my Instagram. That's one of the things I've been like doom scrolling, and I'm just not loving it over there. There's so many ads and so much like just fake accounts all the time. It's just ugh. Getting Canva Pro. I've already signed up for the free trial of that, so that went from might do to yeah, I'm actually doing it. It just does my head all the time. It's like this one's pro, you can't use this. So if you use Canva, you'll know what I mean. And then I've been thinking about what I'm going to be putting in my monthly setup for next month, my monthly setup. And I'm thinking about like what's the story of this month, and I might just separate those things out. So like those pages which were not really working great, kind of, but not really. I want to sort of spread those things out, I think, and make pages for each of those things, so that I can record things like my field notes, my special memories, what I'm watching, reading, listening to, and stuff like that. I've got spaces for those, but not in that particular layout. So I'm going to have a little think and a play. That's my realization for this month, is to feel well, I need to balance my input and my output. And when those things are out of balance, I just don't feel good. If I do too much output and not enough input, then I feel depleted. But if I have too much input and not enough output, which has been more what it feels like this month. I feel clogged, which is not nice. So decks to support this month's themes. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be working with in this next moon cycle. So I've decided to use the Joie de Vivre tarot, which I've got in this horribly crispy but shiny bag. I think this deck is a lovely blend of like light and dark and fun, but with like a lot of meaning as well. It's like people tend to like think of fun as being very superficial and like extra, like you don't need fun, it's just something that's nice to have. But actually it is like literally the sign that is associated with fun is Leo, which is the sign of the heart. And if you know that, you don't get much more essential than the heart. So yeah, I decided to work with that for this month, so that's that one. I'm going to use the Chrysalis Tarot as well, which is one I used to use loads when I first had it, but oh gosh, I can't get in the box now. It's one that I don't use very much at all now. I think because it has a slightly different system, and so I'm just like, oh, again, a sort of yellowishy colours. Look at that Celtic owl. So I want to kind of use this one to kind of bring it back more into my realm of used decks, you know. So yeah, I'm going to be working with that one. I've got this book as well for that, which I didn't have before. I just had like a little book. Also, I'm going to use those two tarot, another tarot as well, which I'm going to use, which is the Dark Days Tarot, which might seem a strange choice. But again, you know, that contrast of like light and dark, of movement and stillness, I thought this would actually be really, really good. This is a square deck, as you can see, and it's like shiny edges. This is an indie deck, but I'm pretty sure it is still like available to buy in a few places. So, but this with this, looks amazing. Not so much with the Chrysalis, but maybe. So the mages are like white with black on them, and the minors are black with white on them. So you've got that kind of stark contrast. So that should be interesting. Yeah, lots of good with that. I'm going to continue to use the Herbal Astrology Oracle, which I've already showed you. And I'm going to pull this back out as well, the Woodland Wardens. I kind of chose this basically just on the warden aspect, because I felt like protection is something that is going to be, this one will look good with that as well, with that Dark Days, I think. Oop. Yeah, look at that, loving that. And with this and this actually as well. Yeah. That is going to be fun, and I'm pretty sure that the astrology is going to look great with all, and in fact the astrology one might look good with this as well. So yeah, that'll be a nice pairing for that. Well, that is my moon. But thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Warmest blessings to you, and I will see you again very soon.